I would start with like a paragraph long kind of description of what I want to build. I had this realization last year, which is I think we built an amazing platform, but the business is not performing. And the reason the business is not performing is that code is the bottleneck. And like I read this quote from Grace Hopper. So Grace Hopper invented the compiler, as you know. At the time, people were, programming in machine code, and that's what programmers do.
So let's start with, let's assume that I'm a sort of a novice programmer. So maybe I'm a student, or maybe I'm just somebody, I took a few coding classes and I've hacked around a little bit, or like, I don't know, I do Excel macros or something like that. But I'm like not, as well as I'm not like a master craftsman of coding. Somebody tells me about Replit and specifically AI, AI and Replit. Like, what's my experience when I launch in with what Replit is today with AI?
Yeah, I would. I think the experience of someone with no coding experience or some coding experience is largely the same when you go into Replit.
Okay.
The first thing we try to do is get all the nonsense away from like setting up the development environment and all of that stuff and just have you focus on your idea. So what do you want to build? Do you want to build a product? Do you want to solve a problem? Do you want to do a data visualization? So the prompt box is really open for you. You can put in anything there. So let's say you want to build a startup. You have an idea for a startup. I would start with like a paragraph long kind of description of what I want to build. The agent will read that. It will parse it out.
You just type standard English.
Language.
Standard English. You just type it in. I want to build. I want to sell crepes. I want to sell crepes online.
Mm-hmm.
So you just like type in. I want to sell crepes online.
It literally could be that 4 words or 5 words.
Okay.
Or it could be if you have a programming language you prefer or a stack you prefer, you could do that. But we actually prefer not to do that because we're going to pick the best thing we're going to classify the best stack for that request.
Right.
So if it's a data app, we'll pick Python, Streamlit, whatever. If it's like a web app, we'll pick JavaScript and Postgres and things like that. Right. So you just type that.
Or you can decide, you can say, and I want to do it in, I know Python, or I'm learning Python in school and I want to do it in Python.
That's right. The cool thing about Replit is we've been around for almost 10 years now, and we built all this infrastructure. Replit runs any programming language. Right. So if you're comfortable with Python, you can go in and do that for sure.
Okay. And then just again, I know this is obvious, people have used it, but I'm dealing in English.
Yes.
So, okay, go ahead.
Yes, you're fully in English. I mean, just a little bit of sort of background here. Like when I came here and pitched to you like 10 years ago or like whatever, 7 years ago,
right.
What we were saying is we were exactly describing this future is that everyone would want to build software.
Right.
And the thing that's kind of getting in people's ways is all the what Fred Brooks called the accidental complexity of programming, right? They're like essential complexity, which is like, how do I bring my startup to market and how do I build a business and all of that. Accidental complexity is what package manager do I use? All of that stuff. We've been abstracting away that for so many years. So you can just, and the last thing we had to abstract away is code.
Right.
I had this realization last year, which is, I think we, built an amazing platform, but the business is not performing. And the reason the business is not performing is that code is the bottleneck.
Right.
Like, yes, all the other stuff is important to solve, but syntax is still an issue. Like, syntax is just an unnatural thing for people. So ultimately, English is the programming language.
Right. But by the way, just does it work with other world languages other than English at this point?
Yes, you can write in Japanese, and we have a lot of users, especially Japanese.
Amazing. Okay,
that tends to be very.
So does
popular.
It support these days? Like for AI, does AI support every language, or is it still? Do you still have to do like custom work to craft into a new language?
No, most mainstream languages that has like 100 million plus people speak it. AI is pretty good at it.
Okay,
yeah.
Wow.
So I did a bit of historical research recently for some reason. I just want to understand the moment we're in, and because it's such a special moment, I think it's important to contextualize it. And I read this quote from Grace Hopper. So Grace Hopper invented the compiler, as you know. At the time, people were programming in machine code, and that's what programmers do. That's what the specialists do.
Yes.
And she said, you know, specialists will always be the specialists. They have to learn the underlying machinery of computers. But I want to get to a world where people are programming in English.
Right.
That's what she said.
Right.
That's before Karpathy, right? That's like, you know, 75 years ago. And that's why I invented the compiler. And in her mind, like C programming is English.
Right.
But that, you know, that really didn't, that was just the start of it. You had C, and then you go higher level, Python and JavaScript. And I think we're at a moment where it's the next step.
Right.
Instead of typing syntax, you're actually typing thoughts,
right?
You know, which is what we ultimately want.
And the machine writes the code.
And the machine writes the code.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So imagine this. You're just a beginner, maybe a student who's played a bit with Excel macros or tried a few lines of code. Now you open Replit with AI and suddenly everything changes. You don't need to worry about complex environments, installations, or which language to use. All that nonsense is gone. Replit simply asks, what do you want to build? That's it. You type in plain English, I want to sell crepes online, and boom. Replit figures out the best language, tools, and setup automatically. No syntax stress, no coding mess. You speak your idea, and the AI translates it into software. It's the future Grace Hopper once imagined. Programming in English, not code. And guess what? Replit's AI now even understands multiple languages across the world.
Yeah, I remember it too. You're probably not old enough to remember, but I remember when I was a kid, it was you know, there were higher level languages, you know, by the 70s, like BASIC and so forth, and Fortran and C. But there was still, you know, you still would run into people who were doing assembly programming, assembly language, which by the way you still do. You know, like game companies or whatever still do assembly to get out.
And they were hating on the kids that were doing BASIC.
Well, so the assembly people were hating on kids doing BASIC, but there were also older coders who hated on the assembly programmers for doing assembly and not doing direct machine code, not doing direct 0 and 1 machine code, because assembly. So for people who don't know, assembly language is sort of this very low level programming language that sort of compiles to actual machine code.
Yeah,
and if it's incomprehensible gibberish to most programmers, even most programmers.
You're writing an octal, or something.
You're writing like very very close to the hardware, but even still, it's still a language that compiles to zeros and ones.
Right.
Whereas the actual real programmers actually wrote in zeros and ones.
Yeah.
And so there's always this tendency, you know, for the pros to be, you know, look down the nose.
Yeah,
and say, you know, the new people are being, you know, basically sloppy. They don't understand what's happening. Right. You know, they don't really understand the machine. And then of course, you know, what the higher level abstractions do is they democratize.
The absolute irony is I was part of the JavaScript revolution. I was at Facebook before starting Replit, and we built the modern JavaScript stack. We built React.js and all the tooling around it. And we got a lot of hate from the programmers that, you should type, you know, vanilla JavaScript directly. And I was like, okay, whatever. And then and now that's mainstream. And then those guys that built their careers on the last wave we invented are hating on this new wave. It's just, you know, people never change.
Okay, got it.
You know, this feels a lot like history repeating itself. Back in the early days of computing, there were constant fights between programmers, machine code versus assembly versus C, and later JavaScript versus frameworks like React. Every generation hated the next for making things too easy, but every leap forward only made technology more democratic. That's exactly what's happening again with Replit AI. It's breaking the barrier between thought and creation. Now, instead of memorizing syntax, you just think in natural language, and the system builds for you. Just type what's in your head, your startup, your project, your dream, and Replit starts bringing it to life. It's no longer about how to code, it's about what to build.
Okay, so you're typing English. I want to sell crepes online. I want to do this. I want to have a t-shirt, whatever the business is. Okay, what happens then?
Yeah, and then Replit agent will show you what it understood. So it's trying to build a common understanding between you and it. And I think there's a lot of things we can do better there in terms of UI, but for now, I'll show you a list of tasks. I'll tell you, I'm going to go set up a database because you need to store your data somewhere. We need to set up Shopify or Stripe because we need to accept payments. And then it shows you this list and gives you two options initially. Do you want to start with a design so that we can iterate back and forth to lock the design down? Or do you want to build a full thing? Hey, if you want to build a full thing, we'll go for 20, 30, 40 minutes Be like, the agent will tell you, go, hey, install the app. I'm going to go set up the database, do the migrations, write the SQL, build the site. I'm going to also test it. So this is a recent innovation we did with Agent 3, is that after it writes the software, it spins up a browser, goes around and tests in the browser, and then any issue, it kind of iterates, kind of goes and fixes the code. So I'll spend 20, 30 minutes building that. I'll send you a notification. I'll tell you the app is ready. So you can test it on your phone. You can go back to your computer. You'll see, maybe you'll find a bug or an issue. You'll describe it to the agent. It'll say, hey, it's not exactly doing what I expected. Or if it's perfect and you're ready to go, and that's it. 20 minutes. By the way, there's a lot of examples where people just get their idea in 20, 30 minutes, which is amazing. You just hit publish. You hit publish. A couple of clicks, you'll be up in the cloud. We'll set up a virtual machine in the cloud. The database is deployed. Everything's done. And now you have a production database. So think about the steps needed just 2 or 3 years ago in order to get to that step. You have to set up your local development environment. You have to sign up for an AWS account. You have to provision the databases, the virtual machines. You have to create the entire deployment pipeline. All of that is done for you. And it just, a kid can do it. A layperson can do it. If you're a programmer and you're curious about what the agent did, the cool thing about Replit, because we have this history of being an IDE, you can peel the layers. You can open the file tree and you can look at the files. You can open Git. You can push it to GitHub. You can connect it to your editor if you want. You can open it in Emacs. So the cool thing about Replit, yes, it is a vibe coding platform that abstracts away all the complexities, but all the layers are there for you to look at.
And here's where the magic really kicks in. Once you describe your idea, the Replit agent shows you every step it's about to take, from setting up databases to connecting Stripe for payments. You can choose to start with a design or let it build the whole thing in 20 minutes flat. The agent even tests your app, fixes bugs, and sends you a notification when it's ready. Just imagine, what used to take days or even weeks now happens automatically in minutes. From concept to launch, everything runs in the cloud. Effortless, fast, and powerful. You can even explore the full code if you want. So if you love future tech like this, hit that subscribe button and drop a like. More amazing AI breakthroughs are coming your way.